I want you to be my friend. I want to share things with you. I want to treat you as a friend. I want to confide in you. And therefore, I'm stepping out of the parenting role. And I also want to really present you with an analogy. The person that's driving goes, God, would you look at that view? Look at that view, isn't it gorgeous? And you're like, I know, I'm looking at it, it's beautiful. And they go, I want to look at the view. So they take their hands off the steering wheel and they're looking at the view and you're like, holy fuck, the car's going to go off the cliff. So you grab the steering wheel and you start driving. Because someone's got to be in the driving seat. Hello, hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Cheryl and this week we're going to cover this phenomenon of when you're friends with your mum. Now, this isn't talking about when you're friends with her as an adult. I think that can be a really beautiful, healing thing. We're talking about when you were a kid, and by kid I mean younger than 18, younger than 16, you were in the family home, you were very much still a dependent, you were very much still, in school and of the age when you would expect a parent to be your parent and the person you would go to when you had problems. That kind of age, right? We're not talking about being friends with them when you're an adult. I'm going to explain a couple things. I'm going to explain what it looks like and how to know if this happened with you, why it's such a bad thing, and then how it's also impacted you in your relationships today. Because you might think, oh, big deal. I was friends with my mum when I was in my teens. What's the problem with that? There is a problem because it's always the parent who's enforcing this, right? Because they're a parent, that's what they do. They're the ones saying, oh, I'm friends with my daughter. And even if you're saying it, it's come from your mother, it's come from your parent. In that dynamic, you have a dependent and you have a parent. So what happens if the parent starts to become dependent on you? Which is what happens if you become friends, because it's not an equal dynamic. It's not an equal dynamic because you're dependent on them for care and for nurture and for emotional support and for all those things and for guiding you through that time in your life when you need support and you're learning how to become an adult. What is happening is she's going, I want you to be my friend. I want to share things with you. I want to treat you as a friend. I want to confide in you. And therefore, I'm stepping out of the parenting role. So if one person stepped out of the parenting role in that dynamic of parent and dependent, what's going to happen, do you think? It means that you were forced, either directly or indirectly, consciously or subconsciously, you were forced into the parent role. You switch roles because your parent is becoming dependent on you for emotional support and you are now in the parenting role. What that means is you didn't get that support that you needed. You were the caretaker, the emotional caretaker. You were made responsible for your parents' emotions. And the way that that can manifest in your adult life is you attract people who need to be taken care of. Maybe it's as serious as people who have full-blown addictions, right? And you fall into the caretaker role there, which is codependency. Or maybe it's just people that are really needy and are always calling you up to talk about their problems, right? I used to have that. I used to have that dynamic in all of my friendships. I was the caretaker, I was the listener, and I don't have that anymore. And what it also does is it makes it really difficult for you to ask for support because you're not used to asking for support, you're used to giving support whether you wanted to or not. And I also want to really present you with an analogy. If you were on a road trip, you were driving in a car and one person was driving and the other person was in the passenger seat and there's this beautiful view, this vista, if you like. I'm thinking of like the Sea to Sky highway in Vancouver where I used to live. Beautiful, gorgeous view, right? But there's also a cliff face. So someone needs to be driving, someone needs to have their eyes very much on the road. And the person that's driving goes, God, would you look at that view? Look at that view, isn't it gorgeous? And you're like, I know, I'm looking at it, it's beautiful. And they go, I want to look at the view. So they take their hands off the steering wheel and they're looking at the view and you're like, holy fuck, the car's going to go off the cliff. So you grab the steering wheel and you start driving. Because someone's got to be in the driving seat. All that thing's going to go off the cliff. It's the same thing in that parent-child dynamic. When I say child, it's teen. It usually happens in your teenage years. This probably isn't going to happen when you're 6, 7 years old. It's probably going to happen in your teens, 13, 14, 15. You're still very much a child, but you're in that, teen, preteen, kind of pre-adult stage, right? So that's what's happening in that dynamic. Your parents stepped out of the parenting role, you've stepped into the parenting role, they stepped into the role of being dependent. And if this really, really lands for you and you're going, that's me, hello, yes, this happened, and it resonates, and now what do I do? How do I get out of this? Next week's video is all about healing the mother wound. Definitely join us next week for that. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week.